The first time I saw the youngest child, she was already gone. Wrapped in a thin blanket, her small body lay near the window where the cold had crept in through the cracks. That day the police officer beside me whispered, "They've been here alone for months." I still remember the smell of that apartment: sour milk, damp clothes, and something heavier like quiet sadness. I was the building janitor, just an old man doing my rounds. I'd walked past apartment 3B on Willow Street in New York almost every day, hearing nothing, seeing nothing. But the day I knocked and no one answered, something in my gut told me to open that door. It all began about 6 months earlier, when a woman named Rachel Thomas moved into 3B with a boy around 13. She called him Aaron. Everyone thought it was just the two of them. She didn't talk much, but Aaron always smiled politely whenever I passed by. I liked him. Quiet boy. Always carried groceries that looked too heavy for him. But looking back, there were things I missed. Boxes came in but no furniture. Curtains always drawn. No sound of laughter, no cartoons on TV. Just silence. One afternoon, I saw Rachel leaving the building in a red coat. She looked different that day, like she had somewhere important to be. She smiled for the first time and said, "If anyone asks, I'm visiting family." I didn't think much of it then. I just nodded. After that, I didn't see her again. Aaron still came and went, but less often. His clothes looked thinner, his shoes more worn out. One evening I asked, "Everything okay, son?" He just said, "Yes, sir. Mom will be back soon." He was lying. I could see it in his eyes. Weeks went by. The rent was never paid, but I didn't push. Something told me not to. Sometimes I thought I heard footsteps or faint voices behind that door. I told myself it was the TV. Then winter came. Heavy snow. Pipes froze and the hallways got colder. I hadn't seen Aaron in 3 days. So that morning I went to check. I knocked once. No answer. Twice. Still nothing. I used my spare key. When the door opened, I froze. The place was dim, lit only by a small lamp on the floor. There were empty cans, wet blankets, and 3 small children sitting together. 2 girls and a boy. The older girl, maybe 10, was trying to keep a little one warm in her lap. The boy, around 7, looked at me with fear. Aaron stood up slowly from the corner. His face was pale, his lips cracked. "Please don't tell anyone," he said. She said she'd come back. I couldn't even answer. I just stared at the youngest. She wasn't moving. The police came fast. Reporters followed later. Everyone wanted to know how 3 children could be hidden for so long in the middle of New York City. Rachel was found 2 months later, living with another man upstate. She said she planned to come back soon. Aaron blamed himself for everything. I tried to visit him in the foster home, but he barely spoke. The only thing he said before I left was, "I thought if I kept the door locked, she'd have to come back." That line still stays with me. It's been 5 years now. The apartment was repainted, rented again. People laugh in there now, play music, cook dinners. But whenever I pass by, I still hear the quiet sound of that winter. The small voice of a boy trying to keep his family alive while waiting for a mother who never returned. Some nights, when I close up the building, I find myself staring at that same door. And I remember that in some parts of the city, you can live just a wall away from heartbreak, and never hear a sound. I went back to work the next day, but I couldn't focus. Everywhere I turned, I saw those kids' faces, hungry, pale, and too quiet for their age. The police had taken them to the hospital that night. I heard the youngest girl, Sophie, didn't make it. The cold and hunger were too much. Aaron had tried everything: melted ice for water, tore his own shirts to keep her warm, even begged a few dollars from the corner store when no one was looking. He was just 13. They said the other 2, Lila and Ben, were weak but alive. I remember sitting in the hallway outside 3B after everyone left. The light from the police cars flashed through the window, painting the walls red and blue. I just sat there holding my keys, wondering how I never saw the truth. A few days later, 2 detectives came by to ask questions. How long had they been there alone? One of them asked. I told them, I don't know. But it's been at least 2 months since I saw their mother. He sighed and shook his head. She's saying she left them for just a week. But those kids said she was gone all winter. He closed his notebook and said softly, "That boy tried to be a father before he was even a man." When Rachel's arrest made the news, people started pretending they'd known something. The woman downstairs said she heard crying one night. The man across the hall claimed he noticed strange smells. Everyone suddenly had a story, but no one had lifted a finger when it mattered. That's how cities are. You hear things, you see things, and you keep walking. But I couldn't. I started visiting Aaron every week at the youth center. At first he didn't talk. He just sat by the window staring at the street below. Then one afternoon he asked, "Do you still live in the same building?" I said yes. He nodded and said quietly, "Can you tell me if they painted over the marks on the wall?" "What marks?" I asked. He looked down. "We used to draw little stars on the wall each night before we slept. One for each day she didn't come back." I couldn't speak. Months passed. Aaron slowly began to heal. He started drawing again. He liked sketching buildings and faces. One day he handed me a picture of a tall apartment with yellow windows and said, "That's 3B. But in this one the lights never go out." I keep that drawing in my locker. A year later, the state placed Lila and Ben with a foster family. Aaron stayed behind to finish school. He told me once, "I'm not angry anymore. I just want to make sure no kid feels forgotten again." He meant it. He finished high school, got a scholarship, and started studying social work. He said he wanted to help kids like him, the ones hiding behind locked doors waiting for someone to notice. The last time I saw him, he was taller, stronger, and wearing a blue hoodie with a badge that said Youth Advocate. He smiled and said, "You know, Mr. Leon, I think Sophie would be proud of me now." I nodded, though my throat tightened. Now every Christmas, Aaron comes back to the building. He brings toys and food for the families here. He knocks on each door, leaves something small, a blanket, a book, a box of cookies, and says it's for the ones still waiting. Apartment 3B is occupied again, but I always tell the new tenants the same thing. If you ever feel the walls getting too quiet, just knock. Sometimes people inside forget they can ask for help. It's been 10 years since that cold day. The door of 3B no longer creaks. The lights are bright, the laughter is loud. But sometimes when I walk past late at night, I still feel a chill, and I whisper, "Good night, Sophie." Because I'll never forget the day a 13-year-old boy taught me what love really looks like. Not the kind that says I'll come back, but the kind that stays even when the world walks away.